Why is it that your sister Maggie sends more money than you do? I don't really want to say this. Each month, Maggie contributes up to $1,500. As an elder sister, do you feel a feeling of duty? You should be thankful for everything you get, Mom. Abby's financial situation makes it impossible to avoid. My sister and mother's remarks were hurtful. It's amazing that after all this time, I was asked to join them for dinner, and now this subject has come up. My mother has denigrated me since we were small, since she has always given preference to my younger sister. I want to get out of here as quickly as possible. My name is Abby. My spouse and I are considering having another kid, and our son is currently in the first grade of elementary school. It's unclear, though, if our financial circumstances will let it. While I don't mind giving money to my mother, who lives alone, I do feel conflicted about working half the week and knowing that my sister also sends money. Maggie, who is 3 years younger than me, has always been given preference by my mother. I naturally grew closer to my father as a result. My father has always lavished me with love since I was a small child. But right before I started junior high, my father died. Not that my mother didn't pay attention to me at all, but there was a noticeable difference between the way she handled my sister and me. Our family's financial situation worsened, and my mother, who had previously been a stay-at-home mom, began working, significantly altering our way of life from when my father was still living. If you're considering attending university, I'm sorry, but I can't provide the funds for that, my mother stated to me, expressing her worries about the future. Maggie is another factor to take into account. I therefore decided to enroll in a public high school with strong work prospects instead of pursuing my desire of going to college. My mother's income and mine helped relieve the financial burden on our family once I graduated from high school and found a job. Abby, Maggie wants to go to university, my mother stated as the year was coming to an end. I wish to help her in some way. How? I apologize, but it can be challenging. The cost of tuition would surely be substantial, depending on the university Maggie wanted to attend. I mentioned it to Maggie and she responded, I want to study economics. Economy? Considering that you don't even read the newspaper? She typically just reads articles about celebrity activities and gossip scandals. I might comprehend a little better if it were sociology. This is due to the fact that it incorporates media studies. I'm not choosing an expensive art major, Maggie remarked, raising her voice as if to argue. You ought to help me a little more as my sister. Is your interest in the economics department purely academic, not just about the financial aspect? Yes, of course. I understand our financial situation at home. I'm not just saying this without thought. Then I might consider it. After this conversation, my mother and I had a deep discussion about tuition and household finances, and so Maggie went on to attend her desired university. Not long after, I got married and left my parental home. Even after getting married, I continued to support the tuition fees together with my mother, and also continued to send $1,000 every month to my mother's home. My husband understands my family's financial situation and supports me. 2 years later, an unexpected message came from Maggie. Actually, I've decided to quit university and go to nursing school. Can you support the tuition? What? Wait, you quit university for nursing school? Why such a decision? I've thought about my future. That's not enough to convince me. Why didn't you consult me first? I talked to Mom. She said she would support me. But I'm also contributing to the tuition. Don't be mad. The tuition for a vocational school is cheaper than university. That's not the point. Anyway, I've already decided to go to nursing school. There's nothing I can do about it now. My mother has always been lenient with Maggie. I doubted whether Maggie, who prefers being taken care of over taking care of others, could fulfill her role as a nurse. This time, you're not allowed to quit halfway through. Don't worry, I understand. If you ever feel unwell, talk to me, okay? Don't say such ominous things. Thank you. Maggie's casual words of gratitude made me feel uneasy. It was about 6 months after Maggie started nursing school. Sis, I'm in trouble. I've run out of money. What, did you break something? How rude! I went out with some seniors at school, and before I knew it, I had spent it all. Help me. What about Mom? I've already spent the money from Mom, too. You should avoid such relationships with seniors. There are plenty of reasons, like not being able to focus on your studies. But it's hard to say no to the seniors. I can get useful information for tests from them. Isn't that just an excuse to have fun? Silence was her answer. I took it as an agreement. I have a family to take care of. If you want money to play around with, earn it yourself. I informed her that I was stretched thin with the tuition payments and ended the call. Later, my mother contacted me. She criticized me for not supporting my sister. Why am I the one being criticized? From my perspective, I wonder why you would immediately give her money. What was the specific reason for quitting university? It seemed she couldn't fit in with university life. She felt it was different from what she had expected. When I suggested changing her major or looking for other paths if it was too hard, she decided to pursue nursing. Even so, from my conversation with Maggie, it sounded like she was asking for money to have fun. I then questioned the situation at home. Everyone goes out and has fun occasionally, especially when they're young. It's normal. It seemed my mother didn't care at all that I hadn't had the luxury to go out and enjoy my youth. I felt their discussion was pointless. I can't give any more than I already have. It's cold of you not even fulfilling your own sister's wish. I'm already putting a strain on my husband. Please understand our situation. Fine, I won't ask any more. My mother ended the call angrily. After that, the financial demands from my family ceased. 3 years passed while I continued paying for Maggie's tuition and sending money to my mother. During this time, we were blessed with the birth of a healthy boy. Eventually, Maggie graduated from nursing school and secured a job as a nurse. With the tuition expenses gone, we could finally breathe a sigh of relief. My husband was happy about it. He had always readily agreed to support my family financially. He never complained about the financial support I provided to my family, though he might not feel it. I am deeply grateful for his generosity. After returning to work post-maternity, I was able to continue working, thanks to my mother-in-law, who lives nearby and looks after the baby. I can leave work on time and have the support of my colleagues. About 6 months into this busy yet fulfilling routine, Maggie contacted me. Hey, I know you're in a mid-level position at work, but the amount you send to Mom has stayed the same, right? What are you talking about? I'm sending as much as $1,500 a month, even though I'm a newbie. It seemed she wanted to compete over the amount of money sent home. Did you really call just to talk about that? Is that your response? Haha, are you upset because I'm sending more money than you? Why don't you just admit it? Are you drunk? Don't equate our situations. I'm hanging up now. Her actions were utterly incomprehensible. I wanted no part in such conversations. Time passed, and on a holiday, I was invited to my childhood home by my mother for the first time in a while. Maggie had also taken the day off, and it turned into a lunch meeting for the 3 of us. At first, we shared updates on my son's latest developments and our daily lives, but gradually, Maggie's bragging became the focus. The main topic was that she was providing more financial support to the house than I was, as she had mentioned in the previous call. Maggie, as I mentioned before, you're single, and I have a family. I have children, so don't treat us the same way. When I countered, my mother took Maggie's side. But if your sister is providing more support, why is your amount less? You don't even need to pay tuition anymore. Maggie is paying as much as $1,500. Don't you feel a sense of responsibility as an older sister? Abby is financially tight, I replied, feeling uncomfortable as my mother supported Maggie, making her feel emboldened. Such comments put me in a difficult position. Yes, we are financially tight. That's why we can't provide more support. Their expressions changed to confusion, and my mother expressed her displeasure. Well, do as you please then, she said. I secretly rejoiced in my decision. Stopping the support significantly improved our financial situation. A year later, my mother shared her troubles with me. All the home appliances had suddenly started malfunctioning. Why do all the appliances break down at once? Can you help? What about Maggie? Her support alone isn't enough despite all her boasting? How much is the shortfall? The refrigerator and washing machine are the top priorities. Just the essential appliances, she answered. Indeed, their malfunctioning would disrupt daily life. I understand. I asked for the details of the budget and then transferred a little extra. A month later, during the next call, I was astonished. The water heater too? Yes, it will cost about $3,000. Can you help a bit? What happened to Maggie? Also, did you quit your part-time job, Mom? Recently, we replaced the vacuum cleaner and the DVD player, so we're financially tight right now. I see. Something felt off, and my intuition told me so. Following that intuition, I decided to visit my childhood home and announced it for my next day off. I still had a key, so entering wasn't an issue. Mom, are you here? I came to see the new appliances you mentioned, I called out, as I entered through the entrance. My mother greeted me in a flustered manner. Oh, Abby, why the sudden visit? I wanted to see the new appliances. We'll have to replace ours soon, so I wanted to hear about what you got. Well, now is a bit... She hesitated and avoided my gaze, confirming my intuition was right. Did you really have to replace all the appliances at once? Well, yes. Then let me see them. Entering the living room, my intuition was confirmed. It was a lie, after all. The refrigerator was still the old one. At that moment, Maggie appeared. Mom, who are you talking to? Oh, Abby. Maggie, are you off today? Yes. She was short on words, but I wondered why. However, one truth became clear. I was deceived out of my money. Don't say such terrible things. Then what? I couldn't stop my tears at that moment. My mother scolded Maggie. Maggie quit her job. I told her to be honest and ask Abby for help, but this child was too proud. Don't make it sound like I'm the only bad one here. You agreed too, didn't you? Let's just end this. I had no interest in watching them shift blame any longer. Do whatever you like. I left the scene. Even after returning home, my anger didn't subside, and I drank several cups of coffee to calm down. Then I received a call from Maggie. Sorry, Abby. I quit my job right after getting it and couldn't bring myself to say it. Are you looking for a new job then? What about part-time work? I'm looking for a new job, but I haven't started any part-time work yet. If you truly regret lying, then repay all the tuition fees and the money for the appliances too. That's impossible. She refused, saying she had already spent it. Why did you quit the nursing job in the first place? Suddenly, Maggie's voice was filled with anger. The harassment from the seniors was terrible, Maggie explained. When I asked for help to understand the work, I was criticized as incompetent and useless. I just wanted clear instructions. It's not good to leave your work to others. Nursing is a busy profession, isn't it? But I couldn't understand it, and then I was falsely accused of cozying up to the doctors. Did you seek help from a doctor? Yes, I thought they would understand me best. I even considered marrying one as well. Maggie was always prone to taking the easy way out. I thought her attitude had likely alienated her colleagues, leading to her resignation. Why don't you start with part-time work? There are some job openings in the stores on the shopping street. I'll look for a full-time job during this period. Please support me, she requested, as expected. This pattern of seeking assistance was clear. I'm sorry, but with a child starting school and us wanting to take up hobbies, we can't easily provide support. You need to make an effort to stand on your own. Don't be so harsh. Is it okay for us to be in hardship? Considering the deceit so far, I can't meet that demand. I can no longer provide support. If you want to be independent, you need to work. I cut off the call abruptly, astonished by her audacity, as if she had forgotten the events of a few hours ago. I turned off my phone, not wanting to deal with any more coordinated attempts from my mother. For about half a year, things were peaceful. There was no contact from my childhood home, and my son was enjoying school life. My husband and I were even discussing having another child. During these calm days, Maggie contacted me again. Expecting another request for money, I was cautious, but the conversation took an unexpected turn. My mother's workplace closed, and I found a job as a nurse. We're tightening our belts, but I won't ask for your help, Abby, Maggie said, with a hint of dissatisfaction in her voice. I'll repay the tuition and the money for the appliances in installments. That's no longer necessary. Consider it support from me, but there won't be a next time. There won't be a need for a next time, she murmured. Years passed, and Maggie continued working as a nurse. The closure of my mother's workplace might have been a turning point for her to reassess her life. There are no more financial requests from my mother. Our relationship may not return to how it used to be, but if she wants to see her grandchildren, we'll visit. My husband and I have since been blessed with a second child, a girl this time. Watching my son dote on her is heartwarming. Next holiday, we're planning to go out to the park as a family for a picnic. Meanwhile, in my married life, my mother-in-law became increasingly demanding. "You're too slow, Trash. You should work here all day," she would yell as I quietly washed the dishes, feeling the heat behind my eyes. I wanted to be free. "Are you okay? Do you need some help?" my brother-in-law asked in a low voice one day after arriving a bit late. "This is my everyday life," I answered clearly. Hearing this, my brother-in-law's face turned red with anger, and he hurried off somewhere. I'm Jessica, 30 years old, living with my husband, Peter, whom I married a year ago. During the day, I work in an office, handling clerical tasks. My husband's parents live in the large house next to ours. My father-in-law is retired, but was once a prominent figure in a major trading company and is financially comfortable. He even gifted us the house we live in. Since our houses are adjacent, I'm often called over by my mother-in-law. Initially, it was for minor tasks, but her demands grew harsher over time. "You work until 5 p.m., right? Have our dinner ready by 6 p.m., she would say. "You're off on Sundays, aren't you? I'd like you to change all the curtains and clean the air conditioner." After work and on weekends, I'm left with household chores for my husband's parents, leaving almost no time for rest. My father-in-law is domineering and says little, and he never intervenes, even when he sees me being used. My husband holds similar beliefs. He thinks household chores are a woman's responsibility and doesn't help at all. Even when we plan a date for the weekend, if my mother-in-law calls, he insists we prioritize her while he heads to the golf range with his father. One holiday, as I was replacing the curtains at my in-laws' house as requested, I heard a familiar voice. "Jessica, it's been a while." Oh, brother-in-law. My husband's brother, Michael, is unmarried and runs a small company. He lives far away, so we don't see each other often. I just happened to be nearby and stopped by. "Are you replacing the curtains? Is there anything I can help with? And where are our parents and Peter?" "It's okay, I'm almost done," he replied. "Your mom is at the hair salon, and Peter and your dad are probably playing golf." "I see. I'm sorry, and thank you for helping out." There was a lot that I wanted to say, but since he's family, it felt pointless. With that thought, I continued working on the curtains. Michael silently watched my work, but perhaps feeling a bit awkward, he decided to leave. My mother-in-law, who returned from the hair salon, seemed pleased with her new hairstyle. The work on the curtain and air conditioner cleaning is done, so I'll take my leave now, I told her. My mother-in-law grabbed my clothes. Who said you could go home? What about dinner? I answered in a panic. Mother, I have plans even on my days off, so if you could understand that. Her complexion changed drastically with those words. What are you talking so high and mighty for? Have you forgotten your place in this house? I felt a chill run down my spine at my mother-in-law's sudden change of demeanor. We are the ones providing you with this lifestyle, aren't we? You married into a wealthy family, so you should be grateful and serve. I was at a loss for words. If work is what's keeping you busy, then submit your resignation by tomorrow. Otherwise, I'll have Peter divorce you. With that, my mother-in-law retreated into her room. I was left in shock. Was the meaning of joining this family to devote myself entirely to them? I headed to the kitchen and started preparing dinner. The next day, I received a call from my mother-in-law. She asked if I had submitted my resignation. I hadn't yet, and I could feel her anger as she said, "Do you remember our conversation yesterday? If you don't submit it by tomorrow, you won't be allowed back in the house." Feeling powerless, I submitted my resignation at work, set to leave at the end of the month. Amidst the busy resignation procedures, when I returned home, my husband handed me a piece of paper. We're celebrating Mom's 60th birthday next Saturday. She wanted me to give this to you. I couldn't hide my surprise at the densely written text on the paper: list of attendees, invitation addresses, menu, decoration details, overall flow. I asked my husband urgently, "Am I in charge of all this?" He answered calmly, "Who else do you think will do it? You're the wife of this house, so it's only natural. The day of this birthday party is the day after I quit. I'll be busy with work until then and won't have time to prepare. If you could help me." My husband clicked his tongue and said, "Don't complain. We're providing you with a home, so do it properly." With that, he quickly left. "I'm expecting a special surprise gift. It's an important day, so please take care of it." I stared blankly at the words written at the bottom of the paper, struggling with the preparations for the birthday event and work handover. I managed to finish everything and left the company where I had worked for a long time. The next day, I faced my mother-in-law's birthday event. I was taken up with preparations from the crack of dawn. My mother-in-law, brimming with joy, welcomed guests at the entrance and guided everyone to the spacious living room, slightly away from the kitchen. When the visitors took their seats at the arranged table, one of them pointed out, "It seems like there's a plate missing." At that comment, my mother-in-law's face changed color, and she hurried over to me. "What are you doing? Can't you even count properly?" Surprised, I looked toward the living room and noticed that the neighbor, who had said they wouldn't participate, was present. "I'm sorry. I was informed that the neighbor wouldn't be attending. I'll prepare right away," I replied. As I reached for a plate, my mother-in-law grabbed my arm tightly, her nails digging in. I suppressed a cry of pain as she spoke. "I don't want to hear excuses. You've created such a situation. You're really useless," she said, glaring at me. I quickly apologized and hurried to get the plate. They had already begun drinking, and my husband's face was flushed. His smile seemed almost mocking. Despite feeling repulsed by his smile, I moved towards the kitchen. "Stay in the kitchen all day today. I don't want to see your face," she snapped, then headed back to the living room. I heard her laughing and saying, "Sorry for having such an incompetent daughter-in-law. She's really clumsy." In a corner of the kitchen, I closed my eyes and secretly shed tears. However, There was no time to cry. Jessica, do we still have beer? Can you get it? Can you clean these dishes later? And we'd like some more snacks. The visitors kept making requests, one after another. As if accepting these requests, my mother-in-law raised her voice. If you need anything, please ask my daughter-in-law. We're happy to host you, so please relax. If there's anything missing, we'll go buy it, so don't worry. She spoke loudly enough for me to hear, then continued having a pleasant conversation with the visitors. Then I heard the sound of the house's entrance door opening. Sorry, I'm a bit late, said my brother-in-law, arriving a bit late. Michael, we've been waiting for you. Come here quickly, everyone's waiting. My mother-in-law called him over in a kind tone. I didn't even have time to greet my brother-in-law. In between preparing snacks, I glanced at the piled-up dishes and took a deep breath. I could hear voices from the people in the living room welcoming my brother-in-law's arrival and offering him drinks while I was fully occupied with kitchen work. As I was calmly arranging the snacks, finishing the cake preparations, and about to start washing the dishes, my brother-in-law approached and asked, Jessica, where are you? Are you finished with the meal? Is there anything I can help with? His warm words made my eyes well up with tears. He had been kind like this before, when we met at my parents' house. Trying not to show the tears welling up in my eyes, I kept silent and continued washing the dishes. My brother-in-law peered at me. Are you okay doing all this work alone? Let me handle the dishwashing at least. You must be tired, right? At his words, the tears I had been holding back fell. In a faint voice, I replied, This is just everyday life for me. I continued washing the dishes, wiping away the tears that kept flowing. Everyday life, you say? He muttered softly, then asked more probing questions. Has Mom always treated you so harshly? I nodded quietly, avoiding his gaze. Is that why you had to change the curtains yourself? Did you do it alone? I nodded again. Does Peter know about this? I nodded firmly. Indeed, my husband was aware of it. He knew how unfairly his mother treated me, but to him, maybe that was just part of being a wife. Still, I had hoped for words of concern from him, such as, Can I help? Or, Are you okay? Every time I heard my husband's cheerful laughter from the living room, I wanted to block it out. I glanced at my brother-in-law briefly. His kind face quickly turned red with anger, and he dashed toward the living room. I quickly wiped my hands and followed him. In the living room, my in-laws, my husband, and the guests were drinking and laughing joyfully. When my brother-in-law entered, my mother-in-law's face brightened, and she spoke cheerfully. Michael, where have you been? You're always so busy with work. Take a break. Come sit here. What are you thinking, Mom? He said in a deep tone, staring sharply at her. Surprised and slightly perplexed, she replied, What? Why are you looking so angry? That's enough. Apologize to Jessica right now. His reprimand changed the atmosphere in the room. Did you make Jessica do all the preparation and cleaning today? My mother-in-law, lost for words, looked at me with cold eyes. Feeling her sharp gaze, I trembled and stepped back. Is this how it always is? My brother-in-law demanded. My mother-in-law answered lightly, Well, in most homes, it's the daughter-in-law who does the household chores and menial tasks. Jessica knows that, right? With her words, many eyes turned toward me. Suppressing the trembling in my body, I answered firmly, I have no intention of working as a domestic helper in your home. I quit my job at your request, but if you continue to use me for menial tasks, I will leave. At my statement, my mother-in-law smirked, while my husband remained silent, sulking in a corner of the living room. Dramatic, aren't you? She said. Leaving like that, how will someone with no ability like you make a living? My brother-in-law reacted vehemently to that comment and retorted loudly, So this is how you've always oppressed Jessica, and my wife. My mother-in-law's face contorted. Wife? Michael, are you married? A surprised guest inquired. Yes, I was. It was a short marriage that lasted only 6 months, and it all ended because of you, Mom. My mother-in-law looked down. Half a year into the marriage, she suddenly asked for a divorce. I asked her why, but she just cried and apologized, never revealing the truth. Later on, I understood after asking her close friend. The reason she wanted to get divorced was you, Mom. When I was away, you abused her, used her for chores, and threatened her not to tell me. I regret not being able to protect her. Blaming her wouldn't change the past, so I never told you, he continued with a trembling voice, glaring at my mother-in-law with emotional eyes. You're always the same, oppressing the bride, belittling her. Do you enjoy that? You're truly low as a human. My mother-in-law, lost for words, bowed her head at my brother-in-law's words. The guests cast cold, accusing glances at her. My brother-in-law then pointed toward my husband. Peter, what are you doing? You knew your wife was being used, didn't you? Why did you just watch without doing anything? My husband remained silent, sweating with tension, avoiding eye contact. Suddenly, my mother-in-law shouted, What? Blaming everything on me? The real culprit is her. Her sharp gaze landed on my father-in-law. If I may say, your dad was the cause. When you were away for work, he made me work endlessly, insulted me, and robbed me of my time. I'm a victim too, she yelled, directing her anger at my father-in-law. He looked at her, surprised, mouth agape. So anything you do to your daughter-in-law is excusable just because you faced hardships? Is it right to make others suffer the same? My mother-in-law fell silent, at a loss for words. My brother-in-law turned his gaze toward me. Jessica, what will you do? Pondering over the question, I considered what I wanted for myself. Could I accept the excuses and forgive? Would they improve in the future? Being unemployed, was I to continue serving them? I looked at my silent in-laws and my shrinking husband, and my true desire became clear. I wanted to live freely, without my time, life, or job being taken by others. With that sentiment, I looked straight into my mother-in-law's eyes. Mother, I am cutting off my future with Peter. My absence will clear things up for you. I'll do as you wish. That's my special birthday gift to you. Saying that, I grabbed my belongings. I'm sorry, but I no longer wish to have any sort of relationship with you all. Reflect on your behavior and use it to guide your future. Gently urged by my brother-in-law, I headed toward the entrance. In the silent living room, my mother-in-law's crying echoed, and the visitors' cold stares left my father-in-law and husband unable to raise their heads, silently staring at the ground. The next day, I brought my belongings from my previous residence and returned to my parents' house. My husband pleaded desperately, but his silent complicity in my mother-in-law's actions had completely cooled my heart, and I firmly declared our separation. Later, I heard that my in-laws' relationship with each other turned sour to the point of not speaking to one another. My brother-in-law welcomed me into an administrative position at his business. You did well. I'm always thankful to you. Here's some coffee, he said kindly. Thank you. Is it time for you to go home? Yes. I need to pick up the laundry and do some shopping. I admired my brother-in-law, who handled everything himself. You do it all by yourself? Yes, I handle my own matters. But in the silence, he tilted his head. Still, it's lonely being by myself. I wonder if there's someone nice out there. As he said that, he looked at me. I quickly averted his gaze. Seeing my reaction, my brother-in-law laughed modestly. Hey, do you have time this weekend? How about dinner somewhere? Surprised, my heart raced, and I felt my face heat up with excitement. Sensing that the freedom I had gained with my brother-in-law's support might affect my future, I looked him in the eyes and nodded firmly.